So one of the chapters in the book is titled Democracy and Knowledge. And in relation to this chapter, I would like to ask Geraldine, a central area of expertise regarding education is questions related to knowledge. So why is it important to write a chapter about knowledge in relation to democracy, would you say?
Yeah, well, Sylvia, really, when you think about this one, it's very complicated. And we have taken that complexity into the chapter there on knowledge because knowledge has changed so much. And our view of knowledge has changed so much. Society considers itself a highly scientific and technological society nowadays. At the same time, democracy has always been about inclusion of all voices. It is inclusion of all voices and all ways of knowing. So it is making sure that one type of knowledge doesn't cut out the other type of knowledge, and that we have a broad societal base where people feel that they're co-constructing knowledge together. And democracy is never really, I suppose, about that echo chamber about all the time, reaching agreements with people who are like you. Plurality of democracy is about learning how to make agreements with people who are not like you and do not carry your values, and at the same time reaching those points of important agreement for peace building and tolerance. So obviously connecting in with knowledge and understanding the different ways of looking at knowledge and different ways of knowing is so important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So speaking of knowledge, how do you understand knowledge?
Well, I can say that I understand it as very much changing. It's knowledge power, connected to knowledge and power. There's knowledge power connections. There's changing views of knowledge as we go through society and life. There's different ways of knowing. So knowledge is complicated. And in a sense, there's been a very strong push maybe from the corporate world and from the state to look at technical knowledge, skills, competences, to have, that type of view has become important in this part of the society we're in at the moment. But the views of knowledge do change, again, as changing needs in a society.
Certainly, definitely. So what kind of dilemmas regarding democracy and knowledge do you think are important for teachers and student teachers to be aware of?
Well, I think it is important for, particularly, I suppose, even in teacher education, to think of the value there of counterintuitive knowledge, the reflection, being able to put one's hand on the touchstone of literature and research, being able to actually respect and view all knowledges, but also being able to, like in terms of decolonising the classroom, not having just one knowledge so dominant that you have decolonised the classroom and you're making only one type of knowledge valuable. So it's how to work with young people from different backgrounds and how to bring them into education, and how that to become educated doesn't mean you have to lose your culture, your indigenous values, your religious values, all of the other things. So it's that complexity that's in there inside democracy. And so it is how do you bring in then your evidence-informed research into education, and yet how do you bring it in a way that has respect for the different ways of knowing, and then the knowledges of theoretical knowledge and disciplinary knowledge, as well as professional knowledge and pedagogy knowledge. And then not forgetting, of course, the personal and the personal development knowledge as well. Yeah.
So you're lifting in the complexity in relation to knowledge.
Yes.
So in relation to that, what are the conditions needed with respect to knowledge for a broad view of democracy?
Well, for a broad view of democracy, I think that there is a need for definitely to bring in our, touchstone of research and literature, and definitely to bring our evidence-informed information and knowledge in, and to bring in all of the latest research and everything in, and bring it in there as the teacher in the classroom, but also for the teacher to be able to see, and in the other ways of seeing, to be able to see the culture of the child and the young person, to be able to deal with the context, to understand their translating and interpreting. And I suppose we particularly like policymakers to understand that that's actually what's happening in the classroom, so that it isn't seen as some kind of linear, rational implementation, that the complexity and understanding of the intellectual and emotional and all of that work that the teacher is doing has that complexity complex piece to it. And I think understanding as well, I think we would invite the policymakers to understand the limits of scientific rationality in that, so that we can include all those other lenses. Yeah.
Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you.